ladies and gentlemen, she walks alone, not because she isn't lovable, not because she's broken, not because she's bitter, but because destiny sometimes requires distance. A woman with no friends isn't always lonely. Sometimes she's being hidden. Hidden for a time such as this. She's not in isolation, she's in incubation. Don't confuse her quiet season with defeat. Heaven is working behind the veil of silence. She's learning to hear herself think again. She's learning to trust her own voice without the echo of opinions. She's not drowning in solitude, she's soaring in stillness. In a world that screams for connection, likes followers and approval, her silence is sacred. It's where she meets God face to face. It's where the brokenness gets healed, not posted. It's where the oil is crushed from the olive. No one sees the press. Don't underestimate her just because she walks in a room and doesn't attach herself to cliques or crowds. She doesn't need applause to validate her worth. She's past the need for performance. She's not seeking to be seen. She's been chosen to be set apart. You call it loneliness. Heaven calls it consecration. That woman you see sitting alone at the table, head high, eyes calm. Don't assume she's got no one. She's got angels on assignment, wisdom as her companion, and discernment as her guard. She's been delivered from needing to be understood by everyone. The silence around her isn't empty, it's full of divine instruction. She's not friendless, she's fearless. Because when you've cried your eyes out in the middle of the night and no one was there to wipe the tears but God, you've fought battles that no one even knew you were in. When you've learned how to protect your peace like a soldier guards the gates. You don't crave popularity. You crave purpose. She's learned that being misunderstood is part of the anointing. She's learned that not being invited was actually protection. She's learned that rejection was redirection. She's learned that when everyone leaves, the right one stays. And in that quiet place, a lioness is forming. Friendships didn't fail. Her assignments simply shifted. Her loyalty didn't fade. Her standards just rose. And now she walks with power you can't buy, peace you can't fake, and discernment you can't teach. You don't have to fear a woman who walks alone. You have to respect her. She carries the presence of 1,000 prayers. She wears the weight of private victories. She is proof that silence can be strength and solitude can be strategy. So the next time you see a woman with no friends, don't pity her. Honor her. She holds a secret power because some women weren't born to blend in. They were born to stand out, not surrounded, but selected. There are moments in life when everything goes quiet. The phone stops ringing, the invitations stop coming, and the people you used to call on are suddenly nowhere to be found. For many, this season feels like abandonment, like life is punishing you or people are rejecting you. But what if this silence isn't rejection? What if it's redirection? What if isolation is not a punishment, but a platform for transformation? What if it is the sacred space where the next version of you is being prepared? Isolation is often misunderstood. We tend to see it as loneliness, as being cast out or forgotten. But in truth, isolation is one of the most powerful tools that life, and more importantly, purpose, uses to develop us. Greatness is not built in crowds. It's cultivated in the shadows. Diamonds don't form in daylight. They are formed under intense pressure in the dark. And just like the diamond, you too are being refined, not in public, but in private. There are seasons where your social circle shrinks, your calendar empties, your days feel quieter than usual. But instead of rushing to fill the silence, what if you leaned into it? What if you saw the lack of noise as an invitation to hear more clearly in the absence of distractions? Your spirit finally has the space to speak. Your soul finally has room to breathe, and your destiny has the chance to make itself known without interference. Preparation doesn't happen in the spotlight, it happens in the shadows. The woman with a deep calling cannot afford shallow surroundings. Sometimes life will strip away what is comfortable to give you what is necessary. You were never meant to be distracted by constant chatter, meaningless connections, or surface level approval. When you are set apart, it is because you are being sanctified for something specific. Many women have found themselves in rooms where they once fit but now feel foreign. Conversations that once excited them now feel empty. Relationships they once depended on now feel draining. That is not regression, that is elevation. And elevation will always cost you something. Oftentimes, costs you company. And that's okay, because isolation is not about being alone. It's about being aligned. Aligned with your higher self. Aligned with the voice of God. Aligned with clarity, vision, and focus. In isolation, there's no one to impress. No one to compare yourself to. No one to distract you from doing the deep internal work that transformation demands. Think about the caterpillar. Before it can ever fly as a butterfly, it must enter the cocoon. It must wrap itself in solitude and submit to a process that no one else can help with. It can't be rushed. It can't be skipped. Can't be shared. That transformation must happen alone, in silence, in stillness. And so must yours in your cocoon season. You'll start to hear yourself differently. You'll begin to identify thought patterns that need to be broken, beliefs that need to be rewritten, dreams that are waiting to be reawakened. This process requires solitude, not because you're being punished, but because you're being prioritized. Life is saying, this one is special, this one is chosen, this one can't be distracted right now. But that doesn't mean isolation feels easy. It can feel heavy, the silence can echo, the days can feel long, and the temptation to go back to what's familiar can be strong. But remember, familiarity is not the same as fulfillment. Don't return to noise just because you're uncomfortable with quiet. Don't settle for company when you're called for consecration. The truth is, many women are never fully activated in their power because they're afraid of being alone. So they surround themselves with noise, with people, activity, and end up forfeiting depth for the illusion of connection. But real power doesn't come from being liked. It comes from being ready, and readiness requires preparation. It requires you to sit with yourself, deal with yourself, and grow through things you once ran from. Isolation teaches you how to be self-sustained, how to pray without prompting, how to love yourself without external affirmation, how to lead without followers. Teaches you to be okay with being misunderstood, to be confident without validation, to be whole without being surrounded. Once you come through the other side of that season, you emerge different, stronger, wiser, softer in spirit, but sharper in vision. You begin to walk differently because your steps are now ordered by something deeper than popularity. You speak with more authority because you've been through a silence that taught you how to listen. You no longer fear being alone because you know the strength it gave you. Here's the beautiful part. After the preparation comes the purpose. After the silence comes the sound. The woman who was hidden will be revealed. Not to entertain, not to blend in. She will be revealed because she's been prepared, and preparation never lies. When she walks into a room, the room shifts, not because she demands attention, but because she carries something developed in a place most people never dare to go. So if you find yourself in a season of isolation, take heart. Don't rush through it. Don't curse it. Embrace it and protect it. Dig deep into it because something is happening even if you can't see it. You are being set apart, not cast aside. You are being molded, not forgotten. And when it's time, preparation will speak for itself. The silence is not empty. It's sacred. It's where warriors are built. It's where identities are restored. It's where purpose is clarified, and it's where women rise, not with noise, but with knowing. Not with crowds, but with conviction. There's a kind of power that cannot be faked. A strength that doesn't come from books, from applause, or from being constantly affirmed. It doesn't come from titles, talent, or trends. It comes from pain. Not the kind of pain that gets talked about loudly. The kind that draws sympathy or social media attention. No, it comes from private pain, the silent, secret battles no one sees. The kind of pain you cry through in the middle of the night when the world is asleep. The kind of pain that doesn't get posted, that doesn't get validated, that doesn't even get fully explained. It's the pain you carry in your chest like a weight while still showing up with a smile. It's the trauma you've learned to function through, the heartbreak you had to recover from without closure, the betrayal you couldn't tell anyone about, the loneliness you had to learn to live with. This private pain does not break you. It builds you. It forges something in you that a comfortable life never could. It refines your character. It strengthens your resilience. It deepens your compassion. And most of all, it awakens your purpose. Because once you've survived what you thought would kill you, you start to live differently. You start to speak differently. You start to carry yourself with a quiet, undeniable authority that only comes from experience. You don't just know about healing, you embody it. You don't just talk about strength, you are it. Not because life handed it to you easily, because you earned it in the trenches of your pain. You found it in the ashes of what broke you. You gathered it while crawling through seasons no one knew you were even fighting through. You see, public power, the kind of presence that moves a room, that shifts atmosphere, that commands respect, can't be copied or borrowed. It must be cultivated, and the cultivation doesn't happen on the platform. It happens in private, in the dark, in the moments when you feel forgotten, dismissed, overlooked, and exhausted. That's when the true work happens. That's when your soul is being stretched, shaped, and sharpened. There's something incredibly humbling about going through a season where no one sees your pain. You realize that people will celebrate your victories, but have no idea what it costs you to win. They'll admire your confidence, your joy, your faith, but not know the nights you cried yourself to sleep just to keep going. And in that realization, you develop something sacred, a deeper connection with yourself and with God. You learn to lean into grace, to walk by faith, and to build without needing applause. And when you finally emerge from that season, you come out different, not just stronger, but wiser. Not just healed, whole, not just motivated, but matured. Because the pain didn't just hurt you, it taught you. It taught you who to trust. It taught you what matters. It taught you what to let go of and what to protect. It taught you how to stand even when everything around you was trying to make you fall. That kind of transformation is not cosmetic, it's core. It doesn't change how you look, it changes who you are. It gives you a depth that can't be bought, clarity that can't be confused, and a power that can't be shaken. When you speak after surviving something, your words carry weight. Not because you're trying to be impressive, but because your truth is undeniable. People feel it, they sense it, because you're not drawing from inspiration. You're drawing from experience. You're not reciting what you read. You're revealing what you lived. I challenge you to love enough and care enough. That's what makes it real. That's what makes it powerful. And maybe that's why life allowed you to walk through that pain privately. Because had it been public, you might have performed your healing instead of pursuing it. You might have been tempted to prove your strength instead of developing it. But because it was private, it had a chance to purify you, to confront you, to break you open and rebuild you better. There's a sacredness in private pain. It's a classroom no one enrolls in willingly. Teaches lessons that nothing else can. You learn patience in the delay. You learn trust in the silence. You learn to forgive without apology. You learn to love without conditions. You learn to move forward even when your heart is still catching up. You learn that your value isn't tied to who stays, who claps, or who believes in you. You learn that your power isn't external, it's internal. And when you step into your purpose after that kind of journey, no one can take it from you because they didn't give it to you. It wasn't built on being accepted. It was built on being rejected. It wasn't built in the light. It was built in the dark. And now that you've emerged, you carry something that can't be faked authority. People will ask you, how are you so strong? They won't understand that strength wasn't a choice. It was a necessity. Every smile was paid for by a tear, every victory by a battle, every calm moment by a storm you endured alone. And instead of resenting the pain, you'll start to thank it, because without it, you wouldn't be who you are today. Your private pain became the soil where your power was planted. And now, the world sees the fruit, but you remember the roots. You remember how it felt to break and rebuild, to lose and still live, to be empty and still give, to be unheard and still speak truth. That's power. So don't be ashamed of what you've endured in private. Don't be ashamed of the tears no one saw. prayers no one heard, or the nights no one checked on you. That was where your real work was done. That was where your power was formed. You are not weak because you had to cry in silence. You are strong because you got back up with no one cheering. You are not broken because you had pain. You're powerful because you turned that pain into purpose. So wear your scars like armor, not shame. Let your silence be your strength and your story be your sword, because your private pain didn't break you. It built you. And now you are walking proof that power, true power, is forged not in crowds, but in quiet. Not in ease, but in endurance. Not in applause, but in affliction. There are moments in a woman's life when the pull toward purpose becomes greater than the pull toward people. These moments don't come with grand announcements. They don't always feel holy or glamorous. Often they begin quietly, through disappointments, unanswered prayers, closed doors, and unexplained disconnections. But what's really happening is divine realignment. You are being called into consecration. And for that sacred calling, companionship must take a back seat. Consecration is not about isolation for its own sake. It is about being set apart, not as punishment, but as preparation. It is the process of refining your spirit, sharpening your purpose, disconnecting from the noise so that you can finally hear the still, small voice within. When you are being consecrated, companionship is no longer your comfort, it becomes your caution, because not everyone can walk with you into the places you're being called to go. So many women miss the magnitude of their assignment because they are clinging to the comfort of connection. They settle for community when they're being called to consecration. They surround themselves with people who don't challenge their growth, who don't understand their vision, and who dilute their discernment just so they won't feel alone. But there comes a time when you must decide, do you want to be popular or do you want to be powerful? Companionship is beautiful in its season. It's God ordained. We are wired for connection. But there is a difference between connection and dependence. There is a line between healthy relationships and unhealthy attachments. Consecration reveals that line. It uncovers the places in us that have become addicted to affirmation, to company, to presence, even when that presence is no longer purposeful. When you are truly being set apart, some relationships will naturally fall away, not because of drama or betrayal, but because their season is complete. And while it may feel like loss, it is actually elevation. God doesn't subtract without preparing for multiplication. In the middle space where companionship fades and consecration begins, it can feel like you're losing more than you're gaining. That's the wilderness. That's where the old is stripped and the new is born. It's in that sacred wilderness where your vision gets clear, where your motives are purified, where you learn to stand, not because someone is holding your hand, but because you've learned how to walk in the Spirit. Consecration teaches you how to pray without needing an audience, how to be obedient when no one is watching, how to trust even when the promise seems distant. In this season, distractions become dangerous. You begin to realize that the wrong company can delay your calling. The wrong conversations can cloud your clarity. The wrong associations can contaminate your anointing. So you start pulling away, not from love, but from compromise. Not from people, but from patterns. You're not arrogant, you're aware. You're not bitter, you're becoming. Consecration shifts your appetite. What used to entertain you no longer satisfies. What once felt comfortable now feels constricting. You find yourself craving truth, depth, purity, and presence. You begin to protect your time, your peace, and your space with fierce intentionality. Not because you're hard or cold, but because you've been called. The woman who chooses consecration over companionship understands that she is not here to blend in. She is here to break through. She is not here to please the crowd. She is here to carry the cross, and carrying that cross will cost you something. It may cost you invitations. It may cost you popularity. It may even cost you relationships you never imagined letting go. The oil of purpose is only produced through the press of obedience. Sometimes the people around you will not understand the shift. They'll call you distant, cold, or strange. Let them mislabel your silence. Let them misunderstand your separation. Because when the time comes And the fruit of your consecration begins to blossom. The same ones who misunderstood, you will see you walking in an authority they cannot deny. This process is not about being better than anyone else. It's about becoming better for what you've been chosen to carry. Your consecration is a sign that you are carrying something weighty, something that requires space, purity, and focus. You can't afford to be careless with your time, your mind, or your heart. The truth is, companionship is easier. It soothes the soul. It fills the empty space. It makes us feel seen. But consecration refines the soul. It confronts the empty places. It makes us feel stretched, pulled, sometimes even broken. But it is in that breaking where the oil flows. It is in that tension where true growth happens. It is in that fire where false versions of ourselves are burned away so that the real woman can rise. Consecration isn't just about who you're letting go of. It's about who you're becoming. It's the journey back to your original design. It's the stripping of every identity the world gave you, every role you were forced to play, and every mask you wore to be accepted. It's the sacred undoing of false attachments and the holy rebuilding of a woman who knows who she is, who she serves, and what she's here to do. And when you begin to walk in that kind of clarity, you won't be lonely. You'll be aligned. You won't be chasing friendship. You'll be walking in fellowship with purpose. You won't be begging for connection. You'll be attracting those who are aligned with your destiny, not just your history. Consecrated woman doesn't move quickly. She moves intentionally. She doesn't speak loudly. Her presence speaks for her. She doesn't chase approval. She lives by conviction. She is not shaped by her relationships. Her relationships are shaped by her purpose. When she walks into a room, she doesn't just show up, she shifts the atmosphere. So if you're in a season where you feel distant from others, where your phone is quiet and your circle is small, don't rush to fix it. Don't run back to what's familiar. Don't lower your standards just to feel company. You are not being left out. You are being lifted up. You are not being rejected. You are being redirected. You are not being forgotten. You are being forged. Let the companionship fade if it must. Let the conversations stop if they need to. Let the crowd keep walking if they can't follow. You're not called to please the masses. You're called to carry the mantle. And for that, you must be consecrated. So stand in your sacred space. Protect your process. Honor your solitude. And remember, consecration is never in vain. Births clarity, it births character, it births callings that shake the earth. And one day, when the season shifts and the fruit of your obedience is revealed, all makes sense. Power has often been misunderstood. We tend to associate it with noise, with influence, with volume. We think of power as dominance, ability to take over a room, to assert, to declare, to move things by sheer force. True power, the kind that cannot be shaken or manipulated, does not come from chaos. It comes from calm. It comes from knowing. It comes from an unshakable inner stillness. Power is not rooted in dominance. Power is rooted in peace. Peace is not the absence of trouble. It is not the denial of pressure. It is not the luxury of a life untouched by storms. Peace is presence, steady, grounded, unwavering. Peace is the internal confidence that no matter what happens around you, what is within you will not collapse. It is the kind of stability that doesn't fluctuate with the opinions of people or the circumstances of life. There is something commanding about a woman who walks in peace. She doesn't shout to be heard. She doesn't perform to be seen. She doesn't compete to be valued. She knows who she is and who she's not. She knows where she's going and what no longer deserves her energy. Her spirit is not frantic. Her heart is not desperate. She's not easily moved by gossip, by threats, by shade, or by sudden change, because her power is anchored, and her anchor is peace. Peace is protection. When you live in peace, you're not easily provoked. You don't give emotional access to just anyone. You don't allow every negative comment to plant a seed. You're not available to chaos. You don't chase validation. You protect your vibration. You guard your gates, your ears, your eyes, your mind, because you understand that the condition of your internal world affects your external impact. You refuse to let temporary turbulence disrupt your permanent purpose. The woman rooted in peace knows how to pause before she reacts. She knows when to speak and when to stay silent. She knows when to fight and when to walk away. She knows when to give and when to protect her energy. Because peace gives her clarity, it gives her discernment, it helps her recognize when something is of God and when something is just noise. Power rooted in peace is not loud, but it is unmistakable. It doesn't seek attention, but it cannot be ignored. It's not about being aggressive, it's about being anchored. It is a calm that speaks louder than shouting. It is a smile that doesn't disappear when things go wrong. It's the ability to keep your soul quiet in the face of a storm. And storms will come. Peace doesn't promise you a storm-free life, but it does promise you a storm-proof soul. When the winds rise, when betrayal shows up, when disappointments shake your plans, peace becomes your weapon. While others panic, you pray. While others react, you reflect. While others collapse under pressure, you rise with grace. Not because the battle is easy, but because your peace is not negotiable. You begin to realize that protecting your peace is protecting your power. So you become selective with what you engage. You stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop proving your worth to those who already decided you're not enough. You stop over giving in spaces that never pour back. You don't chase closure. You don't demand apologies. You learn to move forward quietly, trusting that peace will lead you better than pride ever could. This kind of peace is not passive, it is powerful. It's not about being quiet in defeat. It's about being still in strength. It's about responding from wisdom, not wounds. It's about walking away, not in weakness, but in wisdom. It's about refusing to let your emotions become your master. A peaceful woman is not a woman who has it all together. She's a woman who knows where her center is. She has tasted chaos and chosen calm. She has wrestled with life and chosen surrender. She has cried, broken, fallen apart, and still returned to herself. And in doing so, she has become a force that cannot be manipulated by fear, anger, or ego. It's the woman who can be lied on and still walk with integrity. It's the woman who can be betrayed and still choose forgiveness. It's the woman who can be overlooked and still remain faithful to the assignment. It's the woman who can lose everything, yet never lose herself. Peace is her compass. She may not always know what's ahead, but she knows who she is in the waiting. She may not always feel certain, but she remains stable. She may not always have support, but she has strength. That strength comes from being grounded in something deeper than circumstances. It comes from knowing that her value is not dependent on how things look, but on who she is becoming in the process. This is not a peace you find in people, positions, or platforms. It's not a peace you find in everything going your way. It's a peace that only comes from within. A peace built in prayer, developed in solitude, sustained by boundaries, and reinforced through wisdom. Power rooted in peace is sustainable. It doesn't burn out quickly. It doesn't fluctuate with trends. It stands the test of time because it's not built on emotion. It's built on character. It's not moved by storms. It moves through them. And on the other side of those storms, that woman doesn't emerge weaker. She emerges wiser. Where is my peace? Because wherever you find your peace, you will find your power. Don't give it away cheaply. Don't trade it for attention. Don't surrender it for validation. Don't lose it trying to fix what wasn't yours to carry. Let peace become your posture. Let it guide your steps. Let it shape your tone. Let it determine your decisions. Not everything requires your reaction. Not every battle is yours to fight. Every argument deserves a response. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is be still and know that you don't have to force what's already aligned. Your power is not in proving. Your power is in presence, in being fully grounded in your worth, your voice, your values, in trusting that whatever tries to shake you will fail because your foundation is built on something eternal. So walk in peace, live in peace, speak with peace, guard your peace, because when your soul is quiet, your spirit is unshakable. And in that stillness, you will find a power the world cannot imitate or ignore. It's easy to misunderstand a woman who walks alone. People look at her and assume she's friendless. They assume her solitude is a sign of deficiency, a lack of love, connection, or community. But what they don't realize is that her silence is not emptiness. Separation is not sadness. Her distance is not rejection. She is not friendless. She is fearless. There is a sacred kind of courage that grows in solitude, a strength that doesn't require a crowd, a confidence that doesn't feed on compliments or companionship. This woman has learned how to stand without support, how to walk without applause, and how to believe in herself even when no one else claps. That's not loneliness, that's liberation. Woman who chooses her own peace over forced connections, who prioritizes her growth over being included, is not weak. She is wise. She has felt the sting of betrayal, the ache of abandonment, the sting of silence when she needed someone most. But instead of letting that break her, she let it build her. Instead of becoming bitter, she became bold. Instead of shrinking, she stood taller. Not every absence is a loss. Every disconnection is a deficit. Sometimes the people who walk away are simply making room for something greater. Sometimes being excluded is protection. Sometimes not being chosen by others is the very thing that pushes you to choose yourself. This woman has learned that being alone doesn't mean being without power. In fact, her power increased the moment she stopped depending on people who couldn't carry the weight of her truth. She discovered that sometimes God subtracts before he multiplies. He removes the noise so you can hear clearly. He clears the space so your spirit can expand. He pulls you away from certain circles so you stop playing small just to be accepted. There was a time when she longed for friendship, when she gave too much in exchange for presence, when she lowered her voice to maintain peace, when she ignored red flags just to keep from being alone. Those days are over. She's been through too much, grown through too much, and healed too much to settle for shallow relationships. The connection costs her peace, authenticity, or purpose. She doesn't need it. She has become her own safe space, her own counselor, her own cheerleader. She's learned to pray her way through, cry her way out, and rise again even when no one was watching. That kind of resilience doesn't come from always being surrounded. It comes from being separated. Being alone taught her how to hear herself, how to trust her instincts, how to set boundaries, how to let go, how to start over. It taught her that people can walk with you for years and still not see you. That some friendships are seasonal, some connections are situational, and some separations are spiritual. It taught her that presence doesn't always mean partnership, and proximity doesn't always mean loyalty. So now, she no longer forces herself into rooms where she's only tolerated. She no longer holds on to relationships just because they have history. She no longer sacrifices her energy for circles that don't reflect her values. She chooses herself, not out of arrogance, but out of awareness. She is not friendless, she is filtered. The people around her now are not many, but they are aligned. They are not loud, but they are loyal. They are not perfect, but they are purposeful. And until she finds those rare connections, she is okay walking alone. Because walking alone takes guts. It's easier to stay connected to what's familiar. It's safer to go with the crowd. But this woman isn't looking for safe. She's looking for substance. She knows that destiny often requires distance. And she's not afraid of the quiet anymore. She's learned to thrive in it. The silence gave her strength. The solitude gave her space. The stillness gave her vision. She's not afraid of being misunderstood. She's not afraid of being left out. She's not afraid of people talking because she has nothing to prove. She's got everything to become. She's not performing anymore. She's not pretending anymore. She's not pleasing anymore. She's present with herself, with her purpose, with her path, because fearlessness isn't about being loud. It's about being true. It's the kind of courage that lets you sit at a table by yourself without shrinking. That lets you go to the event solo without needing to explain. That lets you build your dreams without waiting for someone else to believe in them first. This woman doesn't need a crowd to feel valid. She doesn't need constant connection to feel complete. She doesn't need a best friend in every season to feel seen. She's already been seen by herself. She's already been heard by the one who matters most. She's already been chosen for a calling that doesn't require confirmation from others. So when people look at her and say, she has no friends, what they're really seeing is a woman who no longer needs noise. What they're witnessing is a woman who walks with clarity, who protects her peace, who values herself so deeply that she refuses to compromise it for superficial closeness. She walks ahead of gossip, ahead of mediocrity, ahead of the need to fit in, ahead of old wounds, ahead of broken cycles, ahead of anything that tries to pull her back into the version of herself she already outgrew. She is not friendless. She is focused. She is not desperate. She is discerning. She is not invisible. She is intentional. She is not empty. She is empowered. And one day, the world will look up and see her standing in the very place they said she'd never reach, not because someone pulled her up, but because she climbed alone, consistently, fearlessly,